All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you hear this message, I sincerely pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. Today I got a hot lesson for you, and it's about the significance, the natural significance of gatekeepers and the nature of intergenerational wealth. When we think about wealth, first of all, we tend to think in terms of material, money, assets, properties. But I happen to read a great book called Keeping It in the Family. If you have a chance to get it, you should get it. I recommend it to all my students. Um, um, I've forgotten the author's name, but he was the financial advisor to the 1%. And I was really shocked to see the way he describes the real most precious assets of the 1%, what they really are focused on. And you'll be surprised too. It has everything to do with the people. They recognize that their greatest asset is their people. And so everything must be done to invest in the people. However, the people are able to express and demonstrate their value through the use of resources and materials, connections as well, their network, along a certain line. There's an agenda, in other words. Okay, so we're using all of our natural gifts and talents within our family to achieve specific kinds of goals, what I will refer to as ancestral promise, right? So when I read the book, immediately I saw, oh, he's talking about Ori and Agbole, and how your individual destiny is intended to enhance and promote and expand the mission of your lineage that began, before anyone was ever born. You're in the time of your forefathers, right? All that being said, when we talk about being able to pass down the legacy intact in terms of the wealth, in terms of the direction and the focus, in terms of the parameters that are set that outline what's an acceptable code of conduct. Naturally, gatekeepers are going to play a supremely important role, because the gatekeepers are the ones who have reached a certain level of responsibility within the family to be able to make decisions for not just the people in the family, but for the mission and the resources that the family has cultivated over generations, or perhaps just over a lifetime or two. And they know what's at risk, in other words. They know what's at risk. And so let me give you a story. I used to hang out with, I shouldn't say hang out. I didn't hang out. I used to follow older Nigerian men around, basically. Whenever I met a Yoruba man, and this is like in my mid-20s until my early 30s, mid-30s, everywhere I met a Yoruba man, these men were probably, like my age now, in their mid-50s up to their mid-60s. I'd meet them in different places. I'd, talk to them, and man, if there was any affinity, I would get their contact information and I would go to where they were and I would be with them and I would talk to them and I would learn from them. And it was in that process, little by little, bit by bit, that I started to understand the role of elders and mentors. I started to understand the pecking order and the hierarchy by age and why it was important. The reason why I'm saying this is because there was one time that I was with an elder, and he was also a practitioner, a devotee of Orisha, and he had some medicine, and it was good medicine that he had just brought back from Nigeria. And so he tells me, this is good, akoshe. This akoshe will do 1, 2, 3, and ABC. It's very strong, it's very effective. And you know, as we're talking about it and he's explaining to me how he's used it and what it's enabled him to do, I don't know if he could just thought it was appropriate or he was reading my, energy. But at a certain point, he says, I know you're wondering why I'm giving this to you when I have sons. I said, well, my sons aren't ready for this. I couldn't give this to my son X or my son Y or my son Z because they're going to not do the proper thing with it. But you, I can give it to, and I know you're going to use it properly. And, that was a pivotal moment in my understanding. As a gatekeeper, you have, like I said, you've ascended a certain level. You got access. You hold on to certain things, but you know what they're for. You know how they've been acquired. You know what they can do. And you can look around and you can tell who is capable of managing it and who is not. That's natural. Otherwise, if you put things into people's hands and they're not capable of really making use of them judiciously, then what you're doing is you're setting that person up for failure and potentially jeopardizing all the other assets that other members of the family should be entitled to. So you got to be very discriminating and discerning as a gatekeeper, but it's got to be passed on. It's got to be preserved. So what you need to know as a younger person coming into the inner sanctum of power, of authority, of wisdom, of influence is that it's inevitable that you're going to meet gatekeepers. And these gatekeepers are not your enemies. These gatekeepers are not there to keep you out. They are there to keep the assets in. They're there to make sure that anybody who comes in contact with the resources respects those resources and is going to use those resources in ways that will increase those resources in due time. So don't be discouraged by the presence of the gatekeepers. Don't be turned off by people who have high standards and are not going to compromise those standards to make you comfortable. They're not going to compromise those standards to make things convenient for you. They're going to force you to comply with whatever the rules and the parameters are. Because the higher up you go, the higher the stakes are, the more stringent the demands are. We have to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you can hold your weight. If the only requirement for keeping this or getting access to this akoshe or getting your hands on this money is that you have to be quiet. We have to know that you can be quiet. If you can't be quiet, but you can do all the other things, you have this one flaw, then you are disqualified for certain things. We have to keep that, and you got to understand it, respect it, and do whatever's necessary for you to be ready to step into the next level of influence, command, and authority. That is why you have gatekeepers. So as always, this is a lesson for the leaders. I'm looking for people who are really ready to take that next level, go to the next level, who want to rise to another level. If you're one of those people, I want you to find out how Oloye, Obafemi Origunwa, and the Orisha Lifestyle Academy can help you take your practice and your life to the highest level possible. Visit me at obafemio.com or orishalifestyle.com. Let's start working together to help you live the medicine that will heal your life and heal the lives of those you are destined to serve. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now. Odaro.